Surprisingly, over the past 6 years, no one has actually asked me, hey, Marcus, what the heck is Conscious X? Well, you're gonna learn today.
I think my alter ego is I. You better comply or you will get laid out with a 9. They know that I'm nice. Niggas say my flow is like Christ, cause my shit will lift the spirits. Evil bitches, I know that y'all hear it.
Now, to be conscious of something is to have some kind of awareness. For example, when you wake up, you are aware that you are no longer asleep. When you see the environment around you and you even recognize your own self, you are aware of your existence. You are conscious of it. Growing up in the household that I lived in, being conscious at least to some level of systemic oppression was pivotal to identity, to understanding the environment that I lived in, or the system that I lived underneath, a system that was oppressive to people of color. Artists like Tupac Shakur was very inspirational for me because a lot of his music spoke a lot towards the social injustices or systemic oppressions that people of color face every day. The letter X was highly influential by one of my favorite male civil rights activists, El-Haj Malik El-Shabazz, better known as Malcolm X. Malcolm spoke that he received the X because it correlated to the mathematical expression X that meant unknown, highlighting that it was unknown to him of his true identity of his last name. I took Z as another variable because why not? Originally, that the name Conscious, of course, was taken. I wanted to make conscious music because I was highly influential in conscious hip hop and speak about the experiences that I thought was important in my everyday life. I also took the Z really because Conscious X was already taken and Conscious was taken. Why not? That's like most simple. The X and the Z, for me at least, were just variables, like mathematical expressions that meant unknown. So really, if you put it together, it's kind of saying that you're aware of this unknown, of these unknown variables, these unknown expressions. There's something that's missing. If you take variables, at least in the psychological aspect in psychology, variables are something that can be changed and manipulated to really give you different results. So what does Conscious X have to do with the multiverse? I am pursuing my philosophy degree in Arizona State University. So as a philosophy student, it is important for me to think way too deep about existence, about life, reality. Ooh. Oh, I'm sorry, I got lost thinking about existence. So when you look at something like Conscious X, it's almost like saying that you are conscious of these different variables, something that could be changed and manipulated. During my journey, at least my time doing music, I realized that when I first started, I wanted to talk about something that had to do a lot with systemic oppression and systemic racism. But the issue was, during my own experiences, I started to really experience a lot of what it meant to be an adult or to be an artist or to aim for something bigger. I was bottled up with a lot of emotions throughout the path, and a lot of my music was just different variations of just different emotions. So eventually, as I journeyed off into majoring into philosophy, I came across a lot of different perspectives and beliefs that just constantly clash one another, and I was very intrigued by this. So then I would eventually create multiple characters with the same image, obviously myself, but they represented quite different ways of thinking. They existed in their own universes, a multiverse. One of the most important aspects that I think that I got out of doing it for the past 6 years was data collection. I became really intrigued on the psychological aspect, especially since my wife earned her degree in psychology. By the way, have you ever got on social media, read something stupid, a stupid post that you just felt was so stupid to you, and you had this urgency inside, deep inside, where you said, I have to comment? I did that a lot. It got to a point where I started to think to myself, wait a second, why do I need to comment? Then I started to think to myself, am I the only one who do this? Perhaps a lot of us do it. I began experimenting. I found out generally when I posted certain things, especially on YouTube Shorts, people engaged in content that was typically negative. So I started to really dig deep inside of there and post sort of negative topics. And wow, people were really engaged. I started to play with the algorithm a bit, started to realize how important it was to take in consideration of thumbnails, titles, very important. Titles usually and thumbnails attract people. It happens to us all the time. Even if we don't notice, if we're not conscious of it, it happens to us a lot. And so it makes us engaged in that content. And it's also what increases the algorithm for that content to pop up on our feed. In my time, at least within less than a year, my page went from a couple of thousand to over 2.5 million views. Now, of course, I could have just made that page full of just crazy stuff and probably could have had 10 million views, but I wasn't really into that. I was more into the music and the creative aspect behind it. Matter of fact, when I first started to do Conscious X, the only reason I did it is really because, other than I wanted to get a certain message out, it was a practice on my film career. I wanted to practice audio production for the audio production of filmmaking, and I wanted to practice the cinematography and the coloring side of production on my own, you know, when I didn't have a team or anything like that. Within a short period of time, somebody can ask, hey, how can someone like you with a page that doesn't have so many views have over 2 million views total? That's because I played the algorithm pretty good. It was pretty fun. There's a lot more into what Conscious X is, but that's just pretty much the basis and the inspiration for what Conscious X ultimately meant. It was the audience's job to find out what that was. Now, I'm not sure if that message was clear enough, but it was fun for me, I'll tell you that. Well, I think the most important question is, what is Maisie Maverick? And what does it stand for? Until next time.